Hello, I am Avery or Hazel or Kylie. You can just pick one, I don't care.
Hello, I am Lily.
And nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast, I would catch it.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure about that. Anyway, hello and
Okay.
welcome to the From the Closet podcast. Today, we are covering Guardians of the Galaxy. So, obviously, this episode will contain spoilers for Guardians of the Galaxy. You can join us next week for Luca and Star vs. the Forces of Evil Season 4. You can join us next month for Avengers Age of Ultron. So, definitely look forward to that. In the description, you will find a link to Just Watch, which will have all of the places where you can purchase, rent, or stream this movie. Blah, blah, blah. That link is centered around the US version of the site. However, if you use the app, it automatically redirects you to your country's page. And if you use the website, you can change the country from the website page. Also, in the description, you can find a link to our Patreon where you can get access to episodes of this show early, as well as episodes of our sister show, Off the Shelf, which is about books. You can also vote on future episodes of this show. And then in the description is a link to anchor.fm, which has links to every other platform that this podcast is on, as well as links to our Twitter and our Instagram where you can be notified when we release new episodes. Are you yawning in the middle of me doing?
I am breathing.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna call it. Breathing.
Uh,
My God, Lily. Regardless, you've been warned about spoilers, so let's dig into it.
oh, finally. Okay. I love this movie. And maybe because of what I had to watch yesterday, it's also really funny.
I mean, yeah. Okay, so yesterday, we recorded our Angry Birds episode, which coincidentally, I guess it's not really a coincidence, but um, that in terms of releases, that the Angry Birds movie episode will have released yesterday as well, and it they're both like both that movie and this movie are comedy movies, but the difference between the two is that this movie is actually funny.
I feel like my sense of humor was broken after that movie, and this movie repaired it.
Yeah, like
After
this
that
movie.
movie, I'm wondering, like, is anything ever funny?
Yeah, like uh, now a lot of people do complain about like the comedy in the MCU, and there's some complaints that I'm like, okay, yes, this is an absolutely fair complaint. Um, in particular, there's the complaint that a lot of the humor in the MCU is referential humor. And
Which gets old. Um, and the older the movie is, you don't get it.
yeah, like it's not even that it gets old, it's more just like, oh, you haven't seen this movie that they referenced, so you don't get the joke. But like then there's also putting memes, like using memes as your jokes. They haven't done this yet at the point where we are in the MCU, but there's one particular MCU movie that is otherwise fantastic, but they put a meme as one of the jokes in the movie, and it didn't land because by the time the movie came out, that meme was dead.
Yeah, and while memes can be funny, I don't know. They're just not funny in properties that are trying to take themselves seriously.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the MCU is trying to take itself too seriously. Um,
Well, not like to that degree. I just mean like it's a corporate level, not just like a video online.
yeah,
Like you see this in a theater, not on YouTube.
and the my stance is, to me, the MCU before everything else is a comedy series. That's how I see it.
I mean, this definitely highlights it.
Yeah, like this movie is a comedy movie, and you know that because it opens with the main character's mother dying of cancer. Wait a minute.
I wait. You know, when you say it out loud, I'm starting to get second thoughts here.
Yeah, I like that was something I wanted to point out. Like I was going into this movie knowing it was one of the funniest movies in the MCU lineup, but I had completely forgot that it opened with Peter's mother dying of cancer. Like
Comedy! Yay!
yeah, and then he like runs outside the hospital crying and screaming and gets abducted by aliens. Comedy
The
movie.
the ending of this movie that ties up into the beginning really weird.
How so?
Like, well, how that his father, at least at the time of his abduction, was alive.
Yes. His
That
father.
reveal was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting and it's explored more in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Um, there's a lot more to Peter Quill. I mean, we did get the reveal that he is only half human, so there is that.
So, I just want to say what I guess my full introduction to the Guardians of the Galaxy was. So I did see like a little bit of this movie before, but I didn't really care that much. Um, but I was at Disneyland, went on the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, which was the Tower of Terror, where that's how I knew that the Collector has survived. His that was the main villain of that. And while this is all not canon, he like captures all of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Rocket Raccoon escapes, and then you have to let him in on the elevator. And it's just you going up and down the elevator, watching as the Guardians of the Galaxy try to escape the Collector's collection.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting and stuff. Like, I've never been to Disneyland or Disney World. Um, I can't remember which is which, but I know one of them they say that it's where the magic happens, and the other one they say it's the happiest place on earth.
I want to say, actually, I cannot answer that question.
I
Um,
wanna I wanna say they say Disneyland is the happiest place on earth, and Disney World is where the magic happens.
that yeah, I think when I went to Disneyland, I heard a lot of that. So, and to rememberize myself of this experience, I actually watched
Rememberize. That's an interesting word.
I watched a video of that ride, and well, it's what it was before was called the Tower of Terror. So, I didn't actually feel the movements when I was watching it, but I just felt my heart rate get a lot faster.
Yeah. But going back to the collector for a minute, let's get
Ooh.
this big lore drop out of the way. Um, So the collector reveals to us that before the Big Bang, there were six singularities, which basically just means like black holes. You could kind of refer to them as black holes or events that would initiate a black hole. Um, and that sent six crystals hurtling across the universe. And we get the reveal that the Tesseract is one of them, and that the ether is one of them.
So we have seen three stones already.
I'm going to correct you because you don't know this yet. We have seen four.
Wait, have we seen? Because I know Loki's scepter is one, but I can't remember if we ever saw Loki's scepter. I don't
But
know if that's a thing yet.
but anyway, the other interesting thing too here is that the collector already has one.
Wait, I cannot remember that.
Yeah, at the end of Thor: The Dark World, the Asgardians gave the collector the ether.
Huh.
So
So
yeah,
if it was landed in his hand, he would have had two.
I mean, he very nearly had the uh, the Power Stone. That's the one they're fighting over in this movie. Um,
Yeah.
and oh god, the Power Stone. Oh, okay, so I also love how effective this is at setting up a lot of the stuff that happens in the climax. Because like the collector reveals that like simply touching the stone or the case that it's in, or the a particular staff that has the stone in it, touching that to the surface of a planet could pretty much just destroy all life on the planet. It also sets up that like if you touch the stone directly, it's gonna slowly start eating away at your organic matter and kill you. Um, if more people are joined together, uh, like it sets up that a couple of people like tried to share the burden of like the effects it was having on their bodies um, at one point in time, and it eventually overwhelmed them and killed them all.
That's interesting. So there is one big thing I've been wondering about.
And what's that?
Thor says stuff about the nine realms, right?
Yes,
Is there truly nine planets, or is there more?
there's more. So the whole thing about the nine realms, it's a Norse mythology thing, um,
Hmm.
and it's more specifically the nine realms that Asgard governs. Um,
So
and
Terra is governed by Asgard?
yeah, technically yes, or at least owned by Asgard. And Terra is technically what we know as Earth. Um, the
Hmm.
Asgardians refer to it as Midgard.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like, um, gosh, I'm gonna try to remember, but there's Asgard, Midgard, Vanaheim, Jotunheim, Niflheim, uh, Muspelheim, and something else. Alfheim.
Okay. I
That was
hate
seven. There's two more.
I hate
Nidavellir.
to bring this conversation back to my time at Disneyland, but you just reminded me of something. So there was like this big poster on like the wall, and like all of the planets of the Marvel universe, probably the nine realms. And I asked like one of the employees about it. It's like, oh yeah, we are on Terra. And the entire time I was just thinking, what? Wait, is it Star Wars or Marvel? It's like I
See,
thought, Star Wars thing was, going along the planets, whatnot.
okay, so I highly doubt it has like every single one of the Marvel planets because there's
I
just
think it
so
was just the
many.
Nine Realms.
Yeah, it could just be the Nine Realms, but like if it was the Nine Realms, they wouldn't be referring to Earth as Terra, it would be Midgard.
Hmm,
The whole like thing of Earth being Terra, that actually dates back to the Romans, because
interesting.
like I don't know if you know this, but the Roman name for Gaia is Terra.
Oh, that makes sense now.
Yeah,
Wait, Terra. Out of
it's
any curiosity, is Aventus air?
I think so, yes.
God damn it! This is the Birth by Sleep um, protagonist names.
Yeah. So the thing about Terra, like it's also a pretty common um it's a pretty common basis for like words to be formed out of. So like
Hmm.
you have the word extraterrestrial with the extra meaning outside of, and then Terra is part of terrestrial. So extraterrestrial means outside of Earth. And then there's terrestrial, obviously, terraforming, um, which
Yeah, I've heard
basically is,
Terra a lot in my
yeah,
life.
yeah.
No,
Um, and then
I
we
just
have
find it funny. I
terrestrializing.
I ended like the conversation with the employee. It's like, yeah, okay. I think the entire day is like, what was she on about?
Yeah. So there's just a lot going on here. But the bottom line is we know about Infinity Stones now. And this movie does a very excellent job at giving us some setup for Thanos.
This actually gives us a lot of setup for Thanos without ever having Thanos appear to our main characters.
Right. It but like the main characters do know who he is. I mean, well, for starters, Gamora was literally raised by him.
This is something I never knew about Marvel. Of course, I always knew that Gamora was Thanos' child. I never knew Thanos literally just stole her.
Yeah. And in the comics, I think Nebula is technically his granddaughter, not his daughter, but that's beside the point. Um,
Huh.
so this movie, okay, I guess probably the best thing to say about this movie, I love how this movie manages to balance its comedy with the high stakes plot that we're going with. Because, like, it, it, it doesn't feel like it's constantly undercutting the seriousness with a joke. Because, like, anytime they need to stop and have an emotional moment, they do. And this is something that I see people complaining about with the MCU's humor, that they often undercut serious moments with a joke. And I disagree because I can think of many, many times in the MCU where they needed to have a serious moment and they absolutely did it. And they didn't undercut it with a joke.
I definitely agree. Um, when this movie wanted to get serious, it got serious. If the movie wanted to get silly, funny, it brought you a drunk raccoon.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, I also think there are some times during serious scenarios where there are jokes, but I don't feel like they undercut anything because humor is a means by which we can make sense of the world. It it's a coping mechanism for a lot of people. so it's realistic that some characters are going to be are going to try to crack a little bit of a joke in the middle of a serious scene. But
Because
it
that's just who they are, and
yeah,
no
it's
one can help who they are.
and it like when they do this, it isn't distracting. At least the way I see it, it's not distracting because to me, they're acting like human beings. Because, like, not only is the MCU a comedy series, but it's also character driven, whereas a lot of superhero movies before the MCU were more action story driven.
And I think this is also why I'm more drawn to the MCU, at least when you forced me to be drawn to the MCU. And I don't even think I like more, you know, action driven. I like the characters. I like the story, the plot. Not everything has to be combat 24/7.
Yeah, and the interesting thing too about characters is that this movie was quite a bit of a risk because like before the Avengers came out, uh what Marvel did was they gave us a movie exploring um at least 4 out of the 6 of them to quite some extent. And they gave Iron Man 2 movies. Um Black Widow got to be a pretty huge role in Iron Man 2, and Hawkeye was in Thor. Um,
Yes.
and then they teamed them all up together. I'm sorry, but like, yeah, they really did not build up Hawkeye much at all before the Avengers, but that was his setup movie, and they can get away with one character being like established more in that movie. So like this is something that that DC failed at, but there was concern when this movie was coming out about whether or not they would be able to actually pull off a movie about a team of characters that like
We've
none
never
of
seen
them
before.
yeah that we'd never seen before, that none of these characters had their own movie yet. And well, from your perspective, do you think they pulled it off?
Oh, I think they definitely pulled it off.
Yeah, I do too. Because, like, okay, so they open up the movie with Peter's backstory, and we get that we get to know a lot about Peter in the first 10 minutes. Like, we know where he comes from. We know roughly what kind of person he is, and we know an okay bit about the people who abducted him. There's still more to explore here, but we get to see our villains, and initially Gamora is with them, and it's through these scenes where we learn a lot about Gamora. And we see Rocket and Groot at pretty much the same time as each other because they were partners. And we don't really learn a lot about Groot in this movie or in any movie, to be honest, but do we really need to know? I mean,
He is Groot. I think
yes,
we've learned all we need to know.
exactly. Um, with Rocket, there are enough scenes with him, like where you kind of get his character. Like he obviously like he's the result of like genetic experiments, illegal genetic experiments apparently, which I
Where have I
didn't
heard this before?
yeah I didn't know Jumba was in the Marvel universe, but
Mad evil scientist.
yeah so like he kind of resents the things that have happened to him, even though they've given him the ability to talk and like be sentient and everything. And
I Love
Drax.
Rocket Raccoon's humor.
Yeah, bunch of jackasses standing in a circle. I also love the whole thing about how he loves stealing people's prosthetics.
God, I try to remember. Oh, it was you sleep during the action and wake up when money.
Yeah. And then we get the character of Drax, who we meet in the prison, and we kind of learn about his story throughout the course of the movie. And it they really do sell it. They sell all of these stories quite well, so that at the end of this movie you care about all of these characters.
I can name a lot of movies where I cannot care just not enough about these characters on their dang ho quest. This movie, it really does make you care about them, especially after was Drax's failed attempt at revenge.
Yeah. And I do love to like Peter's logic in going back to Xandar is like it's pretty sound. Like he reaches out to them, and like the thing that he poses to them, like if like they were to be suspicious, it's like, I escaped from your prison. What other reason would I have to come back if I wasn't telling the truth?
Also, and I love this line, I am not 100% a dick.
Yeah. And then later they're like he's like, they got my dick message.
Now, I think what's funnier is like, well, I don't think anyone's 100% a dick.
Yeah. Like this movie has a lot of good humor. I also love that when Ronan is just doing his whole monologuing speech about how, oh, it's time for the Zendarians to face their justice or whatever.
Hmm.
Peter just fucking interrupts that, just dancing around singing Someday.
Oh, that was great.
It's just like perfect. I also love like how all of the music uh all of the music in this movie fits with the character of Peter Quill. Um because like he was abducted in the 80s, so he's just kind of stuck.
Listening to 80s music.
Yeah, 80s music and some 70s music in there too. Like Hooked on a Feeling is
And never
definitely a
forget about the 70s.
yeah, like Hooked on a Feeling is definitely a 70s song, and it's also one of the best songs ever made, and I will hear no arguments against that. Um,
I'm not agreeing with you, I'm just moving on.
but yeah, like I think I really do think they knocked it out of the park with this movie. Two movies in a row, they've done a fantastic job on. Because remember, our last one was Captain America: The Winter
Oh, yeah.
Soldier.
Honestly, I could not remember.
Yeah, like it's been too long since we covered a Marvel movie because we had to record Winter Soldier early, and so it just feels like it's been
It
a
actually has
lot
been.
long. Yeah. Well, there's also the fact that like we got so far behind because I was sick for like a week and a half, and we're playing catch up now, so that doesn't
Best
help.
vacation of my life.
Really,
I mean,
was
I'm
it?
now. Well, no, not really.
I
I mean,
mean,
I had to, continue remember Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated Season 2 knowledge until we could finally record it.
God, I once watched a list. It wasn't too long ago. It was like a top 10 list of like the worst cartoon remakes, and like
Hmm.
these were cartoon remakes of older cartoons, and
Was the
like
Powerpuff Girls on there? Peter Pen.
yeah, it was. as was Teen Titans Go.
Makes sense.
But oddly, the number one
Hmm.
was every single Scooby Doo remake.
Huh.
And I was just like, well, I agree, but I don't think Mystery Incorporated should be lumped in with the rest of them. And
So at
like the
least I
guy,
got you to say that it's not terrible. Not
I,
number one worthy, at least.
yeah, I still don't think it's a great show, but it's probably the best that Scooby Doo had ever been. I still hate Scooby Doo.
Mm, fair enough.
But like the guy who made the list later in another video said that he apologized for lumping Mystery Incorporated in with all of the others.
That show in particular makes sense. It was a good show.
Yeah, and also like half the comments were talking about how Mystery Incorporated shouldn't be
Was
lumped in with
actually
all the
good.
others. Yeah.
Like, bro, Mystery Incorporated was actually good.
I have my disagreements with that, but whatever. Um,
I'm
but
I'm
yeah,
just saying like what other people would say.
so yeah, something I do want you to remember. Okay, so Ronan was Kree. Kree are this alien race that you should absolutely be remembering because we will be encountering them again a lot.
Oh, right. I almost forgot about before we pack all of this up. I do need to talk about it. The villain's motive. What?
Yeah, like this is one of those things where like shit MCU villain again. Almost all of the MCU villains are terrible. I've said it a billion times and it still rings true because like let's just recap, shall we? Uh kill no, not kill no, Ironmonger. There we go. Ironmonger, terrible. Abomination, terrible. Whiplash, terrible.
Terrible.
The Loki, okay. Red Skull, terrible. Loki again. That you did it better this time. Good job. The Mandarin, terrible. Uh, Malekith, worst one yet. And then Hydra, fantastic.
Chef's kiss on Hydra.
Yes. And then we get Ronan. Not. Okay, yeah, he's pretty terrible. He's mad about a peace treaty.
He's
And that's.
mad about a peace treaty, and that's why he wants to destroy all life on a planet.
Yep. It's just, yet another disposable villain. Um, Age of Ultron is kind of an interesting one. But we'll get to that when we get to it.
Which, when we get to it, is next month, right?
Yes, it's next month, but we have some more MCU shit to cover before that. Or
Hmm.
I suppose we have some more MCU shit to record before that because it will not release before our Age of Ultron episode.
Interesting. Well, I guess I have something to look forward to then.
Yeah, we've already talked about this a number of times. It's Agents of
I know what
S.H.I.E.L.D.
you're talking about.
Yeah. So definitely look forward to our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 1 episode. It should be coming out like near the end of December. And we're going to go through all of the Marvel Heroes franchise, which consists of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, and Inhumans. We'll get to the other shows later.
So, I think I want to update my favorite character list. Because I don't think Loki can ever, be top down. But then you have Rocket Raccoon at a comfortable second.
You know, I'm having a hard time deciding who my favorite MCU characters are. Because, like, on the one hand, I could probably make a top five, but I couldn't put them in any specific order. And
Makes sense.
that top five would include Wanda Maximoff, who you have only seen once so far. Uh,
Hmm.
it would include Loki. It would include Steve Rogers. It would, but my brain just crapped itself. Doctor Strange, and who else would I put in that group here? Uh, Gotta think about it. I'll probably get back to it later. Uh,
It's actually
but
funny. I have a Rocket Raccoon Disney Fanny figure.
really, I'm kind of
Yeah, I got it on
surprised that
sale.
I'm a little bit surprised that that exists.
Why is that?
Because I don't know, Rocket Raccoon isn't really the main character of this movie. Like, I feel like if you can
Oh,
describe.
yeah, because you're not putting together one of the big points about Disney Fanny. Guardians of the Galaxy got its own playset.
Oh, okay. So, like, every single one of the Guardians,
Yeah,
or
I believe so. I maybe Groot. I'll have to double check that one.
okay, actually, I'm torn. Okay, now that I think about it, I do think one of the two children of Thanos is up there in my top five, but I can't really decide which one because Gamora and Nebula are both very, very interesting, compelling characters. Nebula, in particular, is going to get a lot of character development as this series goes on.
Hmm.
But yeah, like it's something. So, like, do you have any other thoughts that you'd like to disclose here?
Not in the movie, but just as a funny joke, that's Marvel related. Well, it's not a joke, just circumstance. Did you know that the Nick Fury Disney Infinity one is actually for the Spider-Man playset, not the Avengers one?
See, that really annoys me.
Yeah, sleep on that tonight. Anyway, I
No,
think we're done here. Time for
I,
rating.
yeah, I will not sleep on that. By the way, uh, but anyway, uh, so IMDb gives this movie an 8 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes gives this movie a 92%. Metacritic has it at 76%, which honestly, I want to know who's rating this movie low enough to get it below 80%. Uh,
For
and
real.
then and then 88% of Google users liked this movie.
Okay,
So,
I just had it quite days after I said for real because I had a flashback. Um, I this movie good. This movie is a 8.8.
so pretty much the same as the Google users score. I'm not gonna rate it that high, um, simply because I think there are a lot of other movies that are just better than this movie. However, this movie does solidly earn an 8.3, and that's just my stance on it. But with all that being said, you can join us next week for Luca and Star vs. the Forces of Evil Season 4. You can join us next month for Avengers Age of Ultron. And with all that being said, I've been Avery, that's been Lily, and we'll see you next time.